and I'll be able to tighten that all up in a minute. Right, so I'm going to carry on doing the heat shrink very carefully. I could do with 3 pairs of hands. I'm just putting an extra piece of heat shrink tubing to the end of the Attos, through the frame and protection, I should say. So it's just a tiny piece, so I'm just sliding that down. That's going to go through the frame, and then I'm going to feed it through to the end of the indicators and heat shrink that down. A bit tricky, but we'll get that done. Going through there like so. So I've just brought you in closer so you can see I've fed the extra piece of heat shrink through here, and I'm going to bring it up to the end of the indicator and then heat shrink that down and feed the rest of the wires back through. So as you can now see, that's both sides of the wiring. Heat shrink tube applied. There. So that's the mudguard on, and I'll show you on this camera as well. What I'll do is I'll take a screenshot of it and put it in on the video as well, so you can see that if anyone wants to refer to it. But that's what I've got there, so that's what I'll be working to. So in addition, I've got the female connectors, and also the pins. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm going to cut the ends of the wires back a little bit, make sure they're all clean, and then solder the ends of the wires, and then crimp them, and then fit them into the connector. So let's get on with that. So the wire cutters that I use, or strippers, are the Stanley Fat Max. They're really good pair of multi-adjustable wire cutters, crimpers, all in one. So all I'm going to do, single wire by wire, taking the first one, putting it in about 5mm into the crimpers, and then that's taken off about the same outer insulation. So I'm going to do this for the other 3 wires now. And that's the last one. So that's all 4 of them done now. Outer insulation stripped back. So all I'm going to do is just twist the ends of the wires slightly so they don't splay out, like so. So this little device here is basically just a block of aluminium with a crocodile clip put on the end, screwed into the end there. I've had this from years and years when I worked in the engineering factory, and it's just handy to hold the wires while you solder them in. So just going to pop wires in there, pop that down. You say it just gives you a base there. It's an extra pair of hands really. So all I'm doing now is bring the soldering iron up and solder the ends of these wires. So I've got my reel of solder here, again just making sure all the wires are twisted, there's no strands on the end. Apply a little bit to the soldering iron, doesn't take very long. But you can see with this little block of aluminium and that, it's great, it just gives you like an extra pair of hands. So that's all 4 of those soldered now. Hopefully the camera will pick that up. So the next bit will be fitting the crimps. Some solder just to the connector in there, like so. Then we're going to do changing it slightly. So I'm going to put the wire in there, and I know it's a bit fiddly, but I'm going to actually close over the end of the connector so that the wire is crimped, like so. I'm also going to close over the middle sections there, like so, and then pop it back into the vise and then apply the solder. And there's the first wire attached to the crimp, securely wired in there. So all I'm going to do now, using my long nose pliers, I'm just going to bend over these tabs very gently. And good to go, and then fold over the end ones, and then that's good to go into the connector. So give you the, hopefully you can see that there. So I'm going to get on and do the other three, and then I'll come back in a little while. So hopefully you can see the connector now. I'm just trying to pinpoint it. I've soldered it in place. Where my thumb is, these two end tags, they need to be trimmed back a little bit so that they fold around the wire a bit more. I found that out the hard way, so I'll trim them and then I'll show you a picture of it again. So all I'm doing is taking a pair of tin snips and just trimming just a little bit off each side. Hopefully now it will focus on here, and that'll be able to fold around a little bit easier. So I'll do that and I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. So I'm using a pair of flat pliers, as you can see. I've done one side and I'm just folding the other side around it. And like you can see. And then get the connector, and then it fits into the last bit. Now you've got to, on the top, it's very difficult to see, there's a thicker piece on the top of the connector, so that goes into the top like so of the block, and then you just push it in. And I've got some pry tools that I'll click in there. They're all in position now, so I'm just making double sure. And there's a little latch that goes over the top of the wires. That's all done, ready to be tested. Right, I'll clear all this junk away from here. I've got a couple of pieces of heat shrink, so I'm going to bring them up and I'll heat shrink it down, and then I'll plug it in, and then we'll hopefully have success and then move on to the other side. Okay, so I've plugged the connector back in. I've just put some heat shrink over the ends of it there, plugged it all back in. That's all I'm going to do now. So I'm going to turn on the Harley. Obviously it's only going to be working on one side, but as you can see there, we've got the lights on there. I'll keep it. So I've got the indicator going there, and then the brake light. So that's all good. So all I'm going to do now is do the other side, and then we're good to put the back wheel back in then. Go from there.